Beef. Beef comes from cattle first domesticated around 10,000 years ago in what is now Turkey. The word beef has nothing to do with cows in English. It comes from the French word bœuf, introduced after the Norman conquest of 1066, when French nobles ate the meat while Anglo-Saxon farmers raised he animals. That is why the animal on the farm is a cow, but the meat on the plate is beef.
Pork. Pork is the most consumed meat in the world, accounting for roughly 36% of global meat intake. Pigs were domesticated in China and the Near East around 9,000 years ago, almost entirely for food from the beginning. Unlike cattle or sheep, pigs produce no milk, no wool, and cannot carry loads. China alone consumes more pork than the next 4 largest consuming countries combined.
Chicken is the most consumed meat on the planet by volume, surpassing beef globally in the 1990s for the first time in history. Wild chickens were first domesticated in Southeast Asia around 8,000 years ago, initially for cockfighting rather than food. A commercial broiler in 1925 took 16 weeks to reach 1 kilogram. Today, the same bird reaches that weight in under 6 weeks due to selective breeding. Lamb is meat from a sheep under 1 year old. Meat from older sheep is called mutton and has a stronger flavor that fell out of fashion in Western markets during the 20th century. Sheep were among the first animals domesticated by humans 10,000 years ago in the Middle East. Australia is the world's largest exporter of lamb, shipping primarily to the Middle East and Asia. Duck contains significantly more myoglobin than chicken, making the flesh darker and richer even in the breast. Ducks were domesticated in China around 4,000 years ago. Peking duck has a recorded history going back to the 14th century Yuan dynasty. Traditional preparation involves inflating air between the skin and fat, coating the bird in a maltose glaze, and roasting in a wood-fired oven until the skin becomes lacquered and crisp. Venison. Venison is deer meat. The word comes from the Latin venari, meaning to hunt. In medieval Europe, deer hunting was reserved for nobility and royalty. Poaching deer from royal forests was punishable by death. Wild venison is leaner than almost any other red meat because deer cover large distances foraging daily. Today, venison has grown steadily in popularity in the United States, New Zealand, and Scotland as consumers seek leaner alternatives to beef. Wagyu. Wagyu means Japanese cattle. Due to Buddhist influence, beef consumption was prohibited in Japan for over 1,000 years. Japan's national isolation policy between 1635 and 1854 further separated Japanese cattle genetically from the rest of the world. This produced animals with an unusually high capacity for intramuscular fat. The highest grade Wagyu, rated A5, can sell for over $200 per 100 grams. Turkey. Turkey is native to North America and was domesticated by indigenous peoples thousands of years before European contact. Spanish explorers brought it to Europe in the 16th century. In the United States, turkey became associated with Thanksgiving after it was mentioned in accounts of early colonial celebrations. Americans consume roughly 46 million turkeys on Thanksgiving alone each year. Turkey meat is leaner than chicken and slightly higher in protein per gram. Goat is the most widely consumed red meat in the world when measured globally, eaten across Africa, the Middle East, South Asia, and Latin America. It is leaner than beef or lamb, with a slightly stronger flavor that varies depending on the age of the animal. Younger goat, called kid, is mild and tender. Older goat has a more pronounced taste. Goat milk is also the most consumed dairy product globally, ahead of cow's milk. Rabbit meat has been eaten across Europe, Asia, and the Americas for thousands of years. Romans farmed rabbits in enclosed gardens called lepararia as far back as the 1st century BCE. The meat is white, lean, and mild in flavor, often compared to chicken but slightly denser. France, Italy, and Spain remain the largest consumers of rabbit in Europe. In Australia and Britain, rabbit was a staple food during both world wars when other meats were rationed. Quail is one of the smallest birds eaten as meat, typically weighing between 100 and 200 grams.
It has been hunted and eaten across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East for thousands of years. Ancient Egyptians kept quail in large numbers and ate them regularly, and they appear in hieroglyphic records. The meat is darker and richer than chicken, with a slightly gamey flavor. Quail eggs are considered a delicacy in Japan, France, and across Southeast Asia.
Water buffalo were domesticated in South and Southeast Asia around 5,000 years ago and remain one of the most important livestock animals in the world. The meat is darker and slightly sweeter than beef, with lower cholesterol levels. In Italy, water buffalo milk is used to produce traditional mozzarella di bufala, which is legally distinct from cow's milk mozzarella and protected by European Union designation of origin laws. Water buffalo are also farmed for meat in Australia, where feral populations were established in the 19th century. Crocodile meat is eaten in Australia, Southeast Asia, and parts of Africa. The meat is white and firm with a flavor often described as a cross between chicken and fish. Australia farms saltwater and freshwater crocodiles commercially in the Northern Territory and Queensland, both for their skin and their meat. Crocodile meat is high in protein and low in fat. It became more widely available in Australian restaurants and specialty stores from the 1990s onward.
Kangaroo meat has been eaten by indigenous Australians for at least 50,000 years and is the oldest continuously consumed meat by any single culture on Earth. It is extremely lean, with less than 2% fat, and is one of the most environmentally sustainable meats available because kangaroos produce significantly less methane than cattle or sheep. A 2005 naming contest gave kangaroo meat the alternative name Australis, modeled on words like beef and pork, though the name never became widely used. Pork belly is the boneless cut taken from the underside of the pig, made up of alternating layers of fat and meat. It is the same cut used to make bacon. The difference is that bacon is cured, smoked, and sliced, while pork belly is cooked whole. It became a staple of Korean barbecue, where thick slices called samgyeopsal are grilled at the table. In Chinese cuisine, red braised pork belly has been eaten for over 1,000 years. Pork belly became a restaurant trend across the United States, Britain, and Australia in the 2000s, as chefs embraced its fat content as a feature rather than a flaw. Frog legs have been eaten in China for over 2,000 years and in France since at least the 12th century. France is most closely associated with the dish internationally, though China and Southeast Asia consume far more frog legs annually. In the United States, frog legs are a regional specialty in Louisiana and the American South, where bullfrogs are harvested from swamps and bayous. The meat is white, mild, and often compared to chicken, though the texture is closer to fish. Indonesia is currently the world's largest exporter of frog legs, shipping primarily to France and Belgium.